What's up, you guys? Matt Jablonski here with the Point of Change. Good morning and happy 420, everybody. Facebook just logged me out. Already having problems. Good. Thank you, Zuckerberg. Dude. Oh, we got an awesome live this morning. We're celebrating 420. Obviously, myself being, I wouldn't say cannabis-based recovery, but a lot of my recovery has been helped and aided with cannabis. So I have some friends here that will share that same exact story. Not exact story. Same story, though. We're working our recoveries the same. So we're here to share about cannabis and about how it has benefited our recovery. We're going to answer some of the internet's questions towards cannabis use and recovery. And we're going to do a little panel discussion here after we get introduced to everybody. This live almost didn't happen last night, guys. If you've seen the post I had on the page this morning about, pretty much saying, this is the way I work my recovery. If you're a hater, here's some ammo for you and get the hell out of here. I posted that last night at 10 o'clock and got thrown in Facebook jail for it. I got thrown in Facebook jail last night at 10 o'clock and for 24 hours. And I'm like, tomorrow's 420. Like, this is like the cannabis-based recovery. This is like our day. I need to be live tomorrow morning. So it gave me the option to dispute the claim. So I disputed the claim and they reversed their decision and let me out of Facebook jail. It blew my mind. It blew my mind. Here I was talking shit about Zuckerberg for like hours. I was walking around like, that fucking guy. Like, he ruined my 420 celebration. I messaged all my guests and told them never mind. I deleted the post announcing that I was going live today, did all that, and then they reversed the decision. So luckily, most of my guests were still available to come on here this morning and did not disappoint, and they are here ready to rock with us this morning. So make sure you guys throw up some likes, throw up some loves, share this video out. Comment on it. Let me know a recovery date. Let me know if you use cannabis in your recovery. I want to hear your story. I want to hear at least a small testimony of how cannabis has helped you or anything like that. Or if you know somebody who cannabis has helped in their recovery, all of that, drop it in the comments. I'm going to share this video out myself. So if you guys want to go ahead and hit that share button, invite anybody you know that is using cannabis in their recovery, especially if they're kind of alone and don't have much support, because that happens a lot in this recovery world. So yeah, share this video out. I'm going to share this into a couple groups. We're going to see. Some groups don't like live videos, but we're going to find out this morning. Let's see. Some groups don't like cannabis, so we got to make sure we're nice to all those kind of people too, right? Don't want to trigger anybody. I have there's a few awesome cannabis-based recovery groups out there. GRASS, Green Recovery and Sobriety Support, maintaining my recovery with cannabis. California Sober is another one. So there are groups out there, guys. There are groups out there for this stuff if you're looking for it. Okay. Got that all shared out. Thank you guys for joining me this morning. What's up, everybody? We got 16 people here. Let me bring up some comments, give some shout outs, and then we're going to bring the guests on here. Jessica Chandler, good morning. Michael McNeil, what's going on? Love the shirt. Thank you. I appreciate you drawing my attention to it because we do have 20% off on everything in the shop right now at shop.spreadshirt.com/thepointerchange. You can get I Love Jesus and Weed on pretty much anything. The Pointer Change logo, Pickle Butt Recovery stuff, all of it is 20% off right now to celebrate 420. So if you're looking for a way to support the channel and advocate for your own recovery, go to shop.spreadshirt.com/thepointerchange and get geared up. Let's see. Amanda Marker's in my comments and on my screen. That's awesome. Jim Hartley, what's going on, brother? Jessica Chandler, don't be surprised if Facebook drops a whiz quiz on you tomorrow and throws you back in Facebook jail. Brittany Pereira, good morning. Kate, good morning. Amber Doobie, weed helps with my anxiety and my stress and my seizures and my PTSD. I just got back to smoking weed. I plan to get my medical card. Right on, Amber. Right on. That's way to go. Thank you for sharing that. Michael, cannabis helped me a lot with my mental health and pain management. I started smoking in 2016, and it's the best thing ever. It helps me so much, and I'm a light smoker morning and night. But hey, whatever works. Right on, man. Right on. Brittany Pereira says, yes, I use medical marijuana, and it's helped me stay off pain pills and heroin for 3 years now. Right on, Brittany. Awesome. Thank you for sharing that, guys. All right, guys, I'm not going to waste any more time here. We're going to get this panel up here. So first, my guest here is a man that I just recently met at Never Give Up event, a man who his last name is kind of deceiving because he lacks nothing, but he is Nick Lack. There we are, brother. What's going on, man?
What's up, Maddie?
Good to see you, man. Good to see you. Next up, we got a returning champion here at the Point of Change, my friend Shane Cease. There he is. What's going on, brother?
What's up, guys? How are you?
Good to see you, man. Good to see you. All right, let me get this live video pulled up over on the side so I can see stuff here. There we go. Awesome, awesome. What's up, Zach? Good to see you. Paul, good to see you, man. All right, and last but not least, guys, I had to even this board out. I wanted to get a few females. Unfortunately, we did get one of the best right here. I'll tell you what. So she's going to take away from a little bit of the too much testosterone going on up here. We got to have some femininity here. So here is my friend, Amanda Marker.
Yes. Hello, you guys. Welcome.
Good morning, Amanda. How you doing today?
Doing okay, my friend. Happy to be here.
Good. All right, guys, I'm just going to go around the circle here. I just want to do a quick introduction. Give me your name, drug of choice, recovery time, and something about your recovery. Nick, go ahead. We'll start with you.
My sobriety date is August 22nd, 2020.
Right on.
So I am coming up on 20 months. My drug of choice, I really like that girl, man. It's soft and hard. Yeah, she had her nails in me pretty deep for a good long time. And it took laying in a hospital bed wanting to die to get things to change.
Now I can hear everybody. I'm sorry.
So, yeah, grateful to be here, grateful to be sober.
Right on, brother. Right on, man. Amanda, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, brother. My name is Amanda Marker. I am the founder of Pain to Purpose. It is an online digital recovery support center. I have been in recovery since, well, the last time I used was in 2015. And I use a medical marijuana maintenance program and have been using it since I quit doing crack and heroin 6 years ago.
Right on, Amanda. Thank you. I got a buzzing going on. Anybody else hear this?
I hear it too.
I think it happened whenever Shane, I think it might be on your end, brother.
It may be because I had to connect to my Bluetooth through the car because I couldn't hear anything. I had no sound. So.
Oh, okay. Well, I will deal with that if it makes it so you can hear us. We will deal with a light buzzing, man. Go ahead and introduce yourself, Shane.
Yep. All right. Well, my name's Shane Cease, and I live in upstate New York, and I have been sober and clean from alcohol since April 18th of 2020. I just recently celebrated my 2 years. And I have been using marijuana. I have been using marijuana since I was 12 years old, and after
helped me with my mental illnesses as well, my anxiety and my depression and things like that. And I also, my mom does the medical marijuana program for her chronic pain issues. She got off of all the fentanyl and pharmaceutical medications that she was taking. Now she only uses 1 gabapentin a day and her medical marijuana. And then also, they just recently legalized recreational weed here in New York State. So we have started rebirthing our old business that we had that was called Hot and Cold Nursery. And we're getting into doing a lot of growing, and I have a lot of different things that are available and things like that for anybody that's interested. Inbox me and we'll talk. And at the same time, I've advocated for marijuana almost my whole life. My psychiatrist is on board with it. My counselors and doctors are all on board with it. And, they know that, I definitely research what I'm using. There's different grades of marijuana. There's indicas and sativas. There's all different levels of THC, CBDs, and extra stuff in there. There's actually THG even that is a whole different aspect to marijuana and stuff that they're discovering now in labs and stuff. So there's so much research out there. I definitely encourage people to educate themselves and, you know, get yourself connected somewhere.
Amen, brother. Amen. And last but not least, myself, I am Matt Jablonski. I've been in recovery since February 3rd, 2017. My drug of choice was meth. I was running and gunning with methamphetamine for around 13 years since I was 17 years old, and I didn't stop till I was 30. You really can't tell by looking at me today, and I'm very thankful for that. But it's taken 5 years to get where I am today. And it's been, I've definitely, cannabis has been a huge help in my recovery, not only in early recovery with the urges and the low appetite and inability to sleep, and just anxiety that was caused through my addiction, depression. Cannabis has been a huge helper through my entire process. And it's something that I advocate for. It's something that I really see a beautiful future for. I see a lot of people making recovery work this way. And I feel like as recovering addicts, we need support. We need love. We need help. We need people in our corner. And a lot of times you get rejected and you get turned away if you're using cannabis in recovery. Sometimes I find it ironic that I feel like the rooms are more accepting to you if you're an active meth or heroin addict than they are if you're actively using cannabis. It's kind of ridiculous sometimes, the double-edged sword of recovery. So I feel Amanda experienced it at this recovery event last summer. I won't say names or anything like that, but someone had used cannabis in the parking lot, and they literally made an announcement about it, got up on stage and announced that somebody was using cannabis in the parking lot and outed this person in front of everyone, and very much made anyone who was using cannabis in their recovery in that event was instantly felt alienated. We felt, instantly like, what the hell? Like, if you found somebody in the bathroom shooting heroin, you would have kept it quiet and been just between him. You wouldn't have went up on stage and been like, hey, we got somebody using heroin in the bathroom right now. Don't use heroin. But somebody smoking pot in the parking lot, no problem. Get up on stage and tell everybody not to smoke weed here,
That was wild. That was wild. And I think it was me that they were talking about, actually. I didn't know Indiana still hadn't, legalized medical marijuana. So I had taken, mine with me. And yeah, and it's exactly that. You give heroin addicts respect and you try to let them maintain dignity. But you can go on stage and yell and shout about something that makes a whole lot of people who are in recovery, who have worked really hard for their recovery, it makes them feel like they're doing recovery wrong, and it makes them feel like they're, less than, and that's not cool. That's not cool. We've worked equally as hard for our recovery as everyone else. It just so happens that we utilize something that's not mainstream yet, right? Like methadone is mainstream. Everyone's cool with methadone now in recovery. But because medical marijuana is not yet, there's like this stigma, and it's like you're putting people, what you're doing though is putting people back in their shame and their secrets, right? And that's not cool, man. So I'm glad to be here.
I appreciate your use of the word utilize. That's to utilize this in your recovery. It aids a lot of people, man. And it's not just about, a lot of people think it's trading one drug for another and that, you're just still getting high. But like that's just looking at it in the wrong light completely and entirely.
And see, like for me, here's the thing. Like I'm a part of the 12-step program of Alcoholics Anonymous, and I was blessed that I had a sponsor that was a deadhead like me and stuff, and an old school hippie. And, he didn't shame me for it, but at the same time, he had a different thought process on it. But he also, had the utilization of his stuff that he used holistic medicine and different herbs and stuff, because there's different things that you can smoke that are actual natural herbs other than marijuana that also do the same effects. There's a thing called mutton, and it's a plant it grows. It's a furry plant, and you take that plant. It's also used for asthma control for people's breathing and stuff as well. And so he was into those types of things, and I was blessed by that. And so he understood my utilization, like we said, of marijuana. You know, he understood why. And it took me a while too with my psychiatrist to get my psychiatrist to be on board with it, because he wanted me to quit altogether and just try doing edibles. And I was like, you know, I explained to him the differences between the two and how it affected me. And he began to understand it over time. And actually, he went and did his own research and found, you know, things that could help me along with my mental illness with using medical marijuana and things like that. So, I mean, the stigma's there, but at the same time, there's a lot more people now, especially in like AA and stuff, where they're opening their mind a little bit more to it. And they're not like putting you in that corner where they say, oh, you're on the marijuana maintenance program, you know? And if you think about it, though, we like you said, you know, Suboxone and methadone and things like that, we don't shame people for those things. We don't tell them they're not in recovery because they're taking Suboxone for 10 years. You know, we still consider them to be in recovery. So kind of what's the difference, you know? So we got to change that stigma point at some point. And it's working and it's changing, but it just takes time for things to do that. You know, the more facts that are put out there and the more medical science that we get out of it, the further that'll move along as time goes on, you know? So
amen.
Everything's a process, you know, and it takes time for some things to come into play, but it will come into play. And when it does, you'll find there'll be a lot more people that are in recovery and in other aspects that are using marijuana and stuff for things. So, you know, Indians have been using it for thousands of years.
Definitely. You know, and I think
there's a lot of hypocrisy at the meetings too. Like,
yeah,
they're saying, well, a drug is a drug is a drug is a drug. Well, you drink it, snort it, smoke it, shoot it, or shove it up your ass. If it's not prescribed, if it's a mind and mood altering substance, it's a drug. While they're smoking a cigarette, drinking coffee with a donut in their hand.
Exactly, and those are stimulants and a drug as well, because nicotine is definitely a drug.
Amen,
yeah, I got that one going right here too. You know, it's it's
Nick, you're involved in the 12-step program as well, aren't you?
Yes, I am. I am a member of Narcotics Anonymous.
Right on, brother. So how has that worked as far as mixing the cannabis-based recovery? How have you found that?
It is a touchy subject, so I do try to keep it away from meetings because I know it could be a trigger for some people because my program doesn't work for everybody.
Exactly. Yeah.
However, in more one-on-one settings where I know if the person is going to have an issue or not, I can voice that. And some people it has helped. In fact, I'm sponsoring someone who lives 3 hours away because he couldn't find a sponsor because nobody wanted to sponsor a guy who smokes weed. It's like, really, guy? You spent 20 years on a needle and you're up to 90 days without. How can what you're doing be wrong?
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
You know?
Amen, man. Amen.
It helps me eat. I mean, there's been times I went 3 days without food and didn't even realize it. It's like, why the hell do I feel like crap? When's the last time you ate? Oh, shit.
Yep.
You know, and sleep. I would not sleep without it. It's a huge help. And the mood swings. Everybody knows about those mood swings. I still get them. I'm not going to say they go away. But, man, it takes it from like a 180-degree swing to about a 90. You know.
It helps.
Right.
Yeah, it's not as bad. And I love that. And if someone's going to sit here and try and tell me that's wrong, well, I haven't smoked any rocks. Nothing's been up my nose in over a year and a half. So, you know what? Right here, buddy.
Amen.
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 The bills
Absolutely.
are paid.
Amen.
The bills are paid today. The way I look at it, man, is I don't define a successful recovery as 100% sober and attending meetings, for the rest of your life. I define a successful recovery
Right.
as returning to a productive member of society, carrying your own, being there
Exactly.
for your friends and family, paying your
Mhm.
bills, and just being a productive member of society. Like if you take it from, see, the programs talk about their 5% success rate, you know, and that's
Yep.
supposed to be a good success rate is 5%. But when they say that, hey, I'm really happy for the 5% that find recovery through the programs. I really am. But it makes it sound like 95% of people fail. And that's not the truth. The other 95%, either they're still in recovery and they don't attend meetings anymore, or they're still in recovery and they're using cannabis or a maintenance drug of some sort. They don't account. Those are considered failures in the
Exactly.
program's
Yep.
eye.
Mhm.
So therefore, it gives us a very bleak view. When you add in, when you take the stipulations of a successful recovery and turn it to just someone who has become a productive member of society, like the numbers go way up. They go way up. All of a sudden, you have like 70, 80, 90% of people that are recovering. And it's to me, it's like, why aren't we looking
Mhm.
at it this way? And we see people coming off of heroin, people coming off of meth, and some of the symptoms of their withdrawal is like inability to sleep, inability to eat, depression, anxiety, all these things coming out. What are some of the things that that marijuana and cannabis help you with? Depression, anxiety, inability to
Exactly.
sleep, inability to eat. These are all things that cannabis benefits. So why are we seeing such, you know, oh, that's no good? And I would even tell people that are from an active addiction, I would say, you think back to your active using days when, you know, if you're 100% clean, you think back to your active using days when you were coming down off of heroin or meth or something like that. What did you do? You smoked some weed to help you with the withdrawals, right? Like everybody was like,
Yeah,
man,
man.
I just smoked a little weed, man. I feel like shit, man. Like, and smoking a little weed
Yep.
helped
Yep.
you. Yeah, we went back to running and
Exactly.
gunning after smoking weed. But for me, it's like that's an obvious that you were using it to help yourself through the withdrawal is what you were doing,
Mhm.
you know?
Exactly.
There's a rhetoric. There is recovery rhetoric, and there are a lot of people who just kind of hear things and run with it. But it is not unhealthy for people to hear that I use medical marijuana. It is not. If that is a trigger and that causes you to go out and use again, then you might need to look into a new program, because what other people are doing in their recovery should not be affecting you,
Right.
correct? Like it
Right.
shouldn't.
Exactly.
What I do in my recovery is my business. What he does in his recovery is his business. And I personally have had to work very hard to get to a place to where I know my recovery is strong and sturdy. I know that I have been a productive member of society again, right? Like there's no doubting that. There's no doubting that I have not been using heroin or crack or any other types of bath salts or meth or any of the other kinds of drugs I was using. I'm not homeless anymore. I don't do degrading things to get drugs anymore. I started a business. I started an organization to help people in recovery, and these are all things that I have been doing while using medical marijuana as my maintenance program. Did I smoke this morning yet? No, I did not, because I have a very important meeting at 1 o'clock. So I did not smoke. But switching over, also, kind of taking it from smoking into like a medical terminology has been very effective for me. I do have a recovery plan, and I do wean myself down and reestablish things as I need to go. But it's more of a dosing thing at this point than it is going and like taking a rip off a bong, right? Like you go into a store, I go into a dispensary and I get my medicine and I leave, and it's a little vape cartridge. I can drive home, and if I get pulled over, I'm totally legal and it's totally okay. So yeah, it's 420. I'm happy to be here with you guys, and just super proud of you, Maddie, for all you're doing out there. I've seen you on here with Tommy Chong, and I know how hard it is, man. It's so freaking hard with the recovery community hounding you, and it's rough. But keep it up, brother. You're doing big things. I love it.
You know, it's amazing. Like one of the most supportive communities in the world, the recovery community, and to find that they can also be one of the most judgmental group of people in the world. And I've made posts about it in the past that when you're in recovery, you really have to be careful, because one thing they don't tell you is it becomes really easy to become up your own ass with your recovery. To be like, well, I'm working on myself and I'm bettering myself. So if you're not, well, then I'm so sorry that you don't live the extravagant life that I do. Oh, you guys still do drugs? Oh, look at these peons over here with their cannabis. Oh, yes. I don't do that myself. I find that I don't need medication. I don't need medication to get through. I use, like, get off your horse. Get off the high horse. Come down here to the Point of Change and hang out with us for a little while and look at our lives and tell me, come into my home, walk around my house, come to me, come to my employment, come to my motivational speeches, come talk to my family members, and then tell me I'm not recovering.
Right. And exactly, Maddie. And I'm kind of in the same boat with that, man, here in New York, because people know me from my past, right? They know my multiple personality disorder from the streets and stuff, and like I work at a venue called the Main Street Armory, which is a huge music venue. And, I have my kids in my life today. I actually live with my children today. 2.5 years ago almost, I couldn't say those things because I didn't have those things. I wasn't doing things properly. And now I'm at a point where, like, when I posted about my 2 years, people were like, awesome, congratulations. I have a group of family members, that I'm a part of with the Lighthouse Family of Hope. And I mean, Maddie, when I first met you and stuff too, I started following you right away when I was in detox, actually. You and Drew Hicks were the two people that I followed while I was in detox. And I just continued it when I came home from rehab. I started tuning in and paying attention and stuff. And then I've met many other people from, the Point of Change and things like that. And, it's just, I mean, the things that we're doing in our lives, people can't look at us and say you're not being successful or you're not doing your recovery right anymore, Like, I have people in AA that tell me that. They're like, well, you're doing your recovery wrong. And I'm like, how can you figure? I did the same 12 steps you did. I came to a greater, higher power in my own understanding. I have, so many other things that are positive in my life. Okay, so I have this one thing that I use, but you drink coffee and smoke cigarettes all day long. Is it the same thing? It is, because they're both still mind, mood altering chemicals. So, I mean, it's a lose-lose situation no matter how you look at it. But at the same time, like, that judgmental part of it is changing in some people's minds when they start to really look at, like, where we came from and where we're at now. I have a lot of my friends that are like, man, keep doing what you're doing, man, because whatever you're doing is awesome, So, I mean, it all depends on who you talk to, too. And it is a hard community to be a part of in the recovery community. I'm a part of a lot of groups in it, and I moderate for a few of them. And it's difficult sometimes, people they frown upon it, but they're, like I said, as more research comes out about it, as time goes on, eventually it's going to become more common. Because, like, they're even doing things there's a ketamine clinic here in Rochester, New York, that they're using now to do PTSD and bipolar issues and stuff. So, like, the horizon on the things of medicinal purposes is rising, but it's not rising to the point where it needs to be yet. There's still a lot of people that don't agree, and more that don't agree than those that do agree. So
slowly we're working on it, though. We're definitely working on it. And I love what you said there, and it's funny to me that, it's you talk to people about recovery that, talk about 100% sober and things, and they will tell you that quitting the drugs is just a tiny part of recovery. Well, if I did everything else except for that tiny part, how then is it, still a complete failure? And then the other aspect of this mind and mood altering substance thing is, with me, like, sometimes I get so depressed and anxious that I'm thinking about killing myself. I'm thinking about shutting the Point of Change down. I'm thinking about going and smoking meth. I would say if somebody is thinking those things, they need their mind or mood altered. Like, it's not like we put it in such a negative thing that you're altering your mind. Well, sometimes, bro, my mind is not right and it needs to be altered. And what I've found is that cannabis puts me from that mindset and puts me in, all of a sudden I'm like, why the hell was I just thinking about smoking meth? Why the hell was I thinking about killing myself? I love my life, like, it takes my priorities and it really does. It alters my mind, but in such a good way.
Yeah.
And it really
absolutely agree with
comforting the use of the word medication. I mean, I would actually consider it more of a failure if I was to be back on Valium for my restless leg and Xanax for my sleep. I don't want to come off benzos again, man. You know?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That shit sucks.
I'd sooner roll a joint and smoke that and then go crash comfortably with
Right.
no drug hangover.
Exactly.
And, you know, oh, I can't afford my meds and I've been on it long enough that I'm starting to withdraw. You know,
Yeah, the
no, screw
medication that
that.
was supposed to help you step away from addiction, now all of a sudden you're addicted to it and going through a withdrawal again. And I
Right.
thought that, you know, going back to the MAT thing, you know, Suboxone, methadone, they technically do the same thing as cannabis. But if you're on Suboxone or methadone and you run out, it's real quick that we see people going back out to heroin, going back
Oh,
to
yeah.
meth, selling their body to get drugs
Yep.
because they ran out of their maintenance medication. If you're
Yep.
on cannabis as a maintenance drug and you
Yep.
run out, you might be a little moody. You
Right.
might, you know, you might
Right.
not eat right that day or might get a little bad sleep that night, or, you know, but you're not going to instantly run back to drugs because you're out of cannabis, you know? So to me,
Exactly.
that's another win right there.
I think it's really, really, really important for us to really focus on making it okay within our own minds, for the most part, right? When I first started talking about it and there was controversy over it, it became this thing for me to like put all my energy into arguing why it was okay, right? Instead of really just kind of arguing it with myself. And I found it really effective, to just really lean in and dig in and make sure that I'm okay with it, because then I really don't give a shit what everyone else thinks. You know what I mean? It'll creep in, it'll upset you once here and there, but I'm honestly okay with it, and I don't need to explain myself or defend myself, because if people have a different opinion, then it's okay, right? Like, I don't need them to be in this little box where it's okay to smoke weed in recovery. It's fine that they're in their box, and I think if we just kind of treat them that way, then maybe they'll reciprocate the feelings. So
Just lead with example. I like that, Amanda. I like what you said there. That's you know, using cannabis in recovery for me has been huge. And you know, you get these people that are naysayers, you'll have it. And I have found that if you take a minute, pause and think about it, and then respond intelligently and kind, and let them know, you know, hey, I totally understand where you're coming from. I get it. Using a mind-altering substance to step away from a substance abuse disorder seems counterintuitive. So I totally understand being like, what? You're using a drug to get off of drugs? That doesn't make sense.
right.
I totally understand that mindset. And then you lose your train of thought sometimes when you're a cannabis user. I was on a good thought, and then all of a sudden it was like there was a bird outside the window. And I was like, look at that cute little bird. And now my train of thought. Right out the fucking window.
Ooh, shiny thing. Ooh, shiny thing.
Fucking squirrel. The squirrel got me.
Look, something shiny. Wait, was that a shiny bird?
Oh man. What was I just going to say about the self-judgment? You know, a lot of times the judgment is in our own mind. We feel like we're judged. And that's what I was going to say is when someone comes at you that way with, hey, why do you use a drug to get off of drugs? You can't smoke cannabis in recovery. And then you get defensive. They take that as evidence that you're addicted, right? They look at that and they go, oh, you're getting defensive over me talking about your cannabis. You're addicted to it now. You're just getting defensive over your drugs. I would say to that person, you just insulted the thing that saved my life. That's why I get defensive. When you come at me and say, your recovery, you're not working your recovery properly. I've been doing this for 5 years and I have an amazing life. And when you come around and tell me that I'm not doing it right, I get defensive over the thing that saved my life. I get defensive over the way I live my life.
Absolutely.
It is not because I'm addicted to it and defending
Absolutely.
my I would say if you're in NA and 100% sober and I came at you and said NA is a cult and you're just brainwashed, guarantee you'd get a little defensive too, wouldn't you? You'd get a little pissed off about that.
Absolutely. Yes, indeed.
Yeah,
You know,
so
the way I
nothing.
viewed it,
Well, and see,
Go
for
ahead.
me,
Go
go
ahead,
ahead,
the
Nick.
way I viewed it, the program of Narcotics Anonymous, if you look at the 12 steps, nowhere does it mention drugs. The
Never.
12 steps rebuild me as a person. And in step 1, it says, I have to surrender. I have to admit that I am powerless. Well, all right, it's a disease. I have epilepsy. I'm just as powerless over that. I can't wake up today and decide I'm not going to be epileptic today. Just like I can't wake up and decide I'm not an addict today. Now, there are steps I can take to not have seizures. And there are steps I can take to not use again. In fact, there's like 12 of them. But that rebuilds me as a person, which is going to help me not use. And the medication just, I don't know, it helps me along.
Amen, brother. Amen. I've asked people before, I've said, which step in the 12 steps does it say to be 100% sober? Which step is that? Can't answer me because that's not one of the steps, bro. Shane, what were you going to say before?
So I was gonna say, for me, like, okay, for me, like, my biggest struggle, like, my thing with the 12 steps, right? When I did it with my sponsor, and God rest his soul, he was a wonderful man. You know, I had one of the best years of my life from him, and you know, it was, for me, it was the whole higher power thing, you know, and people like identify that with like weed and stuff now. Like, I have a friend of mine who I'm sponsoring right now, and he's like, well, dude, your higher power is weed, and I'm like, no, man. My higher power is completely different. I was like, my belief in that is a whole different concept. I was like, but at the same time, I was like, the marijuana did help me get to that resolution in my mind of like, this is, you know, what I need to do for myself. And like for my mom, like her being on, I'm telling you, she used to take 26 medications a day to maintain all the ailments that she has and illnesses that she has. Now she only takes 2 pills a day and uses our edibles that we cook ourselves and also our cannabis that we grew, you know, and she hasn't been going to the dispensary as much because we grew a bunch. I bought her a vaporizer for her birthday, and so she uses that. But I mean, from going from 26 medications to just 2 medications, you can't tell me that, you know, people that tell me medical marijuana is a joke. I'm like, no, I have proof that it's not. I can show you somebody that changed their life due to being on medical marijuana. You know, and for my life, with my mental illnesses and stuff, if I didn't have pot, I wouldn't be okay. You know, like even my psychiatrist has said, because he doesn't want to give me more antipsychotic medications because those can be more harmful than they are good with the side effects. So he opted to say, you know, instead of giving me the Ativan, why don't you use these CBD drops from this company and do this process? And he put me on a CBD regimen. And so I do CBD and marijuana at the same time, you know, because CBD is a real helpful thing too. And a lot of people don't do a lot of research about CBD, but CBD heals and helps with so many things. You don't have to be smoking and ingesting and doing just THC. There are other parts of the plant that can be used. You know, there's the THG, THA. There are different parts of the plants that are used, and they all affect our brain differently because we have built-in receptors in our brain. So if we have these built-in receptors in our brain and our God created us, then why do we look upon it like it's such a horrible thing when we have these receptors already in our brain? If we weren't supposed to be using this substance or have this plant be a part of our lives, our brains wouldn't be wired the way they are, you know, and that's the science aspect of it too. So it's just, people are going to judge no matter what you have in life. You know, wherever you go, there's always going to be somebody judging. But you got to be able to accept your life and see that you're serving a greater good than where you once were. And I know I am in my life today, and I'm thankful for it. So,
amen, brother.
Amen, brother, man. I love that. That was awesome. You know, and I've always thought it interesting, you know, when we think of addiction, we instantly think of drugs and alcohol because that's the most prominent. But there are many forms of addiction. You know, there's workaholism. There's not alcoholism. Alcoholism goes right in with addiction, but they are still 2 separate things. And I've realized that through my recovery that there's a reason why they keep NA and AA separate because they are literally 2 very different. They're 2 same forms of the same disease, but they have their own characteristics. But I've noticed that we tell drug addicts that they have to maintain 100% sobriety, either because, if either we tell them the Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde thing, that if you use a drink or drug, you're gonna turn into this demon and instantly destroy everything, or we tell them that, that you can't use drinks or drugs again because you took it too far in the past. So now you have to maintain 100% sobriety. My thoughts on that is, we don't tell workaholics that they can never work again because they work too much. We don't tell sexaholics that they can never have sex again because they just had too much sex. We definitely don't tell someone with an eating disorder that they can never eat again because they've just been eating too much, but we tell drug addicts that they can never successfully use a drink or drug again because they took it too far. To me, it's like, it's really, we're going against ourselves on that one. Addiction goes as many different forms of addiction. Why can't you say that same rhetoric that we use on sexaholics and workaholics and people with eating disorders? We don't tell them that they have to abstain from that for the rest of their life. We teach them how to do it responsibly.
Right.
We teach them how to do it with connection. We reestablish a connection in their life, and then they're able to return to moderate sex, healthy sex. They're able to return to moderate work and healthy work. They're able to return to normal eating patterns. And I think the same is true for a drug addiction. I'd like to add to that I don't think drugs of abuse are ever meant to be put in the human body, like cocaine, meth, heroin. I think those are things that, maybe, I don't want to say completely off the board, because honestly, they've found medicinal uses for some of that stuff. But it's in very low doses that they find the medicinal use in those kind of drugs. To be habitually using those kind of drugs, even a non-addict will start to show symptoms of addiction if they're using an addictive substance. You take someone who's a non-addict and get them to start smoking meth, they're going to start stealing. They're going to start lying. They're going to start selling their body for drugs. They're going to start doing all of the things that an addict would do, even though they don't have the same growth in their brain. They don't have the same thing that we got going on, but they're showing the same signs. So I've found that addictive drugs doesn't just mean that you will come to be addicted or physically, become physically dependent on the drug. It also means an addictive drug will make you show the signs and symptoms of an addict. Check out some of these comments here for just a second.
Shane, when we're done here, let me catch up with you.
Let's see, Amy. I love this comment here because Amy brought up a good point that and I'd love to talk to you guys about any of the negative effects that you've found from your cannabis use. Amy says people should be aware of possible cannabinoid hyperemesis. I can't pronounce that syndrome. Is a condition that leads to repeated and severe bouts of vomiting. It is rare, and it only occurs in daily long-term users of marijuana. I only mention this because my brother has this, and he is struggling with it because he isn't being medicated for his ADD, so he uses it to cope. I agree with this conversation. I'm personally on 2 milligrams of Suboxone daily after a long 10-year road to recovery. Woo! Starting with methadone. I smoke nightly and that's it, only because it causes me anxiety. Just wanted to put that out there to be careful if you start to get sick when smoking. Also, he has been smoking daily for over 40 years. Got an old school stoner there. That's really sucks to, and that's the way life is. Sometimes, when you have something in your life, sometimes we develop an allergy to it. For instance, I love milk and I have a fear that one day I'm going to become lactose intolerant and not be able to drink milk anymore. I'm so scared of that. So I see how, using cannabis for that long and eventually you develop some kind of an allergy to it. And I can't even imagine the struggle of trying to find a new medication that works for you after cannabis stops doing or becomes a negative. And I'd like to just direct the conversation for a minute here to some of the negative thoughts on myself. The negative side to cannabis use is the memory loss. I find that I really have a hard time remembering things, and I'm not totally sure if that's because of the 13 years of meth or because of the cannabis that I still use, or because I'm 35, but I have such a hard time remembering. I think that would be my biggest downfall to cannabis. But I've also, as anybody does, we weigh the pros and cons, and I've found that cannabis has way more pros than cons. Mm-hmm. So, Nick, any negatives that you would mention about cannabis?
Yeah, for sure. Well, first off, we're in Wisconsin, so getting caught with it is really one of the worst.
Oh,
But I'll agree with the memory. I mean, I did enough damage with cocaine, and yeah, this certainly doesn't help me remember stuff. So yeah, I totally get where you're coming from, where you're not sure if it's the damage I'd already done or is it the herb.
Right on. Shane, any negatives from you?
I know for me, I mean, really for me, the only real negative side effect that I would see to things would be, like you said, the memory loss type thing, because it does happen to me sometimes where like I have a brain fart and I'll be trying to think of something and I can't remember for the life of me, what it was or whatever. So, I mean, it happens, but at the same time, like I don't look at that necessarily as a negative thing. It's just something that I've learned how to deal with kind of.
Right on. I could definitely appreciate that view as well, because there are definitely times where I'm thankful for the memory loss.
But-
I'm like, I don't want to remember this.
Right. Anyways, guys, I love everybody. My inbox is always open for anybody in recovery or anything like that. Hit me up. I'm currently going to be driving, so I have to go, and I will see you guys all soon. Much love, everybody.
Thanks for being here, Shane. Awesome. Have a great day, brother. Happy 420 to you, man. All right. Hey, well, this is different. This changed it up. Look how
my head just got
Amanda
really big.
Amanda's all up in our face now.
I don't like it. Like, that's too close.
Now my
so
head looks huge.
Amanda, you right away. Now you can definitely see the glistening on my forehead. Come back, Shane. Come back. This looks terrible. Amanda, you mentioned at the beginning of this live that that you refrain from smoking when you have important things. I'm going to guess that's like a mind fog thing that sets in. So would that be a negative that you would list?
Yeah, I think as you were asking, I was trying to think of something negative, right? And I don't really see that as a negative, like you were saying. Sometimes we need to lose our memory, and it's just more so of a management I've had to learn within my recovery. I can't be like I was when I was 14 and take rips off the bong before I have a meeting or a test or something important that I have to do. So it's more just kind of a management thing.
I definitely can understand that and respect that completely. And as you said before, your use is more as symptoms arise, kind of a dose when symptoms arise kind of a thing. Whereas like mine is like in the morning, I take a hit, and then in the afternoon, I generally take a hit. And then when I get home, I take a hit. So I'm on a low dose throughout the day. What's your dosage look like, Nick?
Well, my mornings are usually rather short, small bowls. Help stable out my mood, get me going for, ready for the day, because I'm not trying to, get toasted.
Yep.
And like, I'm also trying to smoke a little bit more during the day, because I found the only time I eat is after work. I don't punch the clock to go home until midnight. I'm getting home 12:30. I'm not eating anything till 1:30. That's the only time I eat during the day. So like today I smoked a little bit more because, I'm shooting for breakfast.
And it's 420.
Yeah. And I actually found a neat little tool to help me meter it. I'll show you guys.
Yeah, I'd love to hear that. See this.
Now, I told you about this one up at the NGU event. I named it the Gatling Bowl. It's this little metal piece. That bowl only holds about 4 hits.
Okay.
Now, cool thing is, there's 8 of them in there.
Oh, okay. So you load those little chambers with flour?
Right. And then smoke the bowl till it's gone. Done. Cool. Next time a meal's coming up or something, give it a rotate, burn that bowl. I'm good. It's only like 4 hits, so whatever. It's not enough to, get baked or anything like that. So it helps me meter myself by, granted it was a $60 pipe, but I figured it's a $60 pillbox.
Yeah, you know, I mean, this is something that we do need to take seriously. I know a lot of people would be like, oh, you know, whatever, but like, you know, it's something that's really helped us, as we've been saying continuously through this video, and it's something that we take seriously. It's not something that we're over here willy-nilly smoking weed like we were back in the day. You know, there may be a level of recreation to it, as I've often said. Like my use is mostly medicinal, but
Right.
there is a level of recreation because I do
Absolutely.
enjoy it. And I think that people put that in such a negative mindset. They're like, oh, see, it causes a dopamine release, so it's bad for you, and it's an addictive substance, and you enjoy it. See, oh, you enjoy it, so then it's bad. And it's like, why is something bad instantly? As soon as I enjoy it, it's bad.
Yeah,
I look at that as such a positive, because one problem, you ask anybody who works in the mental health field, and they'll tell you one of the biggest problems they struggle with is getting people to take their medication. Getting people to take their medication is like the hardest thing for people with anxiety, depression, drug addiction, drug addicts especially. We don't want to take pills anymore, you know. So getting us to take our pills is like freaking pulling teeth, man. Getting anybody, you know, schizophrenics or people with bipolar disorder, often they start using their medication. It starts working. They take that as a sign that they're better, and they'll stop taking their meds because they think they're better already. When people use cannabis to help with those kind of problems, and I'm not saying it helps everyone. Some people find that cannabis increases their schizophrenic episodes, or increases their anxiety, or increases their depression. So it's different for each person. But for the people that it works for, you have a person who's struggling with mental health issues, and you found a medication that not only improves their quality of life, but they actually want to take their medication. Like for me, that's huge. That's awesome. Like, I think that's such a positive, and we need to stop putting such a negative connotation on enjoying things, you know?
People put a negative connotation on enjoying everything. I can tell you that I regularly hear that fitness is bad for my recovery, right? Like, because there's the dopamine release and the endorphin rush. So yeah, it's just people. It's all a people problem. It's a people problem.
When it comes to the pleasure of it, smoking marijuana is right up there with smoking a premium cigar for me. I could sit down with a Punch Signature, or, you know, a really nice Christoph, or maybe the Cohiba Macassar or something like that. You know, a good $20 stick. And I don't jones for a cigar, but yeah, I do love smoking them. All the flavors and aromas, they're wonderful. Yeah, I get the same thing from marijuana, but I'm not jonesing for that either. It just happens to have other things that help. Like that video about the cannabinoids, how it makes the nerves talk to each other differently, and how the cannabinoids mimic cellular physiology and actually helps your mind make connections and your body rebuild itself. It's like, oh, damn.
Yeah. You sent that video to me, and hearing this, I mean, these are actual doctors that are telling you real scientific evidence about that. They're seeing that cannabinoids are causing a reaction in the brain that they've never seen before. They're seeing synapses in your brain that normally are a one-way path. And the addition of extra cannabinoids allows those synapses to send feedback back to the other receptor. They're seeing receptors that they always thought only flowed one way. Cannabis is showing them that they actually can go the other way and send feedback back to the other, which is super healthy for your brain. And a lot of the things that were in that video that you sent to me were super informative, and I really appreciate that, brother.
Yeah, I'm looking to get my hands on some leaves for juicing, the raw leaves, you know, undried, unheated, because you need it before the THC is broken down into the psychoactive substance. So with that juicing, you can get like 600 milligrams THC, not catch buzz, but you're getting all these awesome benefits from it. And since my mom's going to be starting chemo when she's done with the recovery from her surgery, I was told that is supposed to be some baller stuff, that it's supposed to actually help chemo work better. So it's like, well, shit, get me a juicer and hook me up on some leaves, man. You know,
Yeah,
so I've been trying to hunt some of those down.
I found that really intriguing. They were people are taking cannabis leaves, raw leaves, and putting them in their juicer with all the other fruits and vegetables, making a juice cocktail and using it that way. And the thing that I learned huge from that video was that when we heat cannabis, it turns THC acid into actual THC. THC acid is non-psychoactive. It's got all the same properties as THC, but it doesn't cause the high feeling. So it's when you add heat to cannabis that it causes a chemical reaction that turns THC acid into THC.
Wow.
And it actually takes some of the benefits of cannabis, some of the medical qualities of the plant are taken away when we smoke it or when we turn it into an edible in a cooking process, because the heating activates the THC and actually kills off a few of the really beneficial cannabinoids. So they're finding that raw cannabis leaves or raw flower in a lot of ways has a lot more medicinal properties than smoking it does. Now, myself, I feel that with my mental health issues, the instant relief that I find from smoking flower, that's why I'm not an edible kind of guy, because they take too long to kick in and they last way too long and they're way too intense. And I always end up dosing too much.
Freaking out, man.
You ate a chocolate that makes you stoned, and now you're stoned with a piece of chocolate in your hand. Then I end up eating the whole damn thing, and then I'm just, so for me, edibles is not the answer. Smoking just gives me that instant relief from my anxiety, my depression. Takes away if I have urges or anything like that. I mean, they're gone in a second. It's insane how quickly this stuff changes. That mind altering stuff, like instantly puts me into a good mindset. And I really don't understand. I guess I see why people put it in such a negative manner. There was 40 years ago when they came out and said that it was the gateway drug. But if you actually look into that, the woman who said that never actually said that. She said that nicotine was the gateway drug, and then that sometimes led to cannabis use and other things. But she has recanted her statement since then. If you look it up, she's actually come back out and said, everybody got it wrong, you guys. I never said that cannabis was the gateway drug. Nicotine is the gateway. Nicotine leads to addiction. And it's been misquoted for 40 years to demonize a plant,
It's typically how it goes, right?
There's even that show, Adam Ruins Everything, where he talks about marijuana and how the fact that it's illegal is actually a racist law. That Nixon kept it illegal because back then already they knew that there were benefits and it was not a harmful plant. However, people who opposed him were being imprisoned because of it, and typically they were people of color. So it maintained its illegal status to keep putting people of color in prison.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and a lot of the propaganda that was spread in the early days was things like cannabis makes black people want to rape white women, and cannabis makes Mexicans want to steal things. Super racist propaganda that was put out. And even the name marijuana it actually means a low grade of tobacco that's grown in the fields in Mexico that they call marijuana, that they adapted it to cannabis to put in for, I don't know why they thought that would make it even more evil, but the name marijuana was to give it this negative thought in your mind. It's really fascinating stuff, but also of course we can't trust the government, but it makes you trust the government even less when you start looking into it. The fact that cannabis is still listed as a Schedule I drug makes me just instantly, I don't trust nothing the government says. Yeah, cannabis is Schedule I, listed with no medicinal properties. And it's listed as highly likely to be abused, which that one I might agree with a little bit, because a lot of people do, end up just smoking weed and living in their mom's basement and working at 7-Eleven for their whole life, So I can see, I'm not saying it's right for everybody, and definitely there is such a thing as a cannabis addiction, and there is such a thing as people using it to the point where it becomes a degradation in their life. But for the most of us who are responsible and are held accountable and are using it the proper way and utilizing it the proper way, it's so beneficial, and it becomes such an amazing thing. It doesn't have to be this smoking weed every day and blunt blowing and stuff like that. And even talking to Tommy Chong when I interviewed him, and he blew my mind when he said he has never smoked a full joint in his life. He takes a couple hits and puts it out. And I was like, Tommy Chong has never smoked a full joint?
That is weird.
Right? That kind of blew my mind.
Wow, that is weird. But it is something that keeps us from, there is no defending it, because it has been something that has kept me from doing heroin and crack, and that's all I need to know, right? Like it's not all of what's kept me from doing those things, but it's I would say it's a large portion of why, right? It is. There's no need to drink alcohol anymore for me, which, mind you, if I did like alcohol, even though I am in recovery, I would feel just fine sitting at dinner and having a glass of wine, if it was something I was interested in, because that's where I'm at in my recovery, that I feel like I am able to manage things like that. And people that tell you that you can't, I don't understand the purpose, because people need to learn for themselves anyway. So if somebody's smoking weed in their recovery and you don't agree with it, let them figure it out on their own. And if they don't have to figure anything out the hard way, then maybe, shift your perspective a little, because it is beneficial to some of us, just like it is an addiction to some of us. Jesus drank wine. he drank wine, and I wondered this, and I was talking to my son about it one day, and we looked it up, because it wasn't the wine that made somebody an alcoholic. It was something within themselves.
Amen.
So it's not the alcohol, it's not the marijuana, it's not anything. It's things that we have going on, and lots of people have chemical imbalances and need things to help balance them out. So
Amen. Amen. And Jesus even said that people called him a drunk back in the day. People said that the Son of God was a drunk because parties back then were way bigger than they are now. Like a wedding banquet lasted over a week in some cases, and it was considered a status symbol if you could continue the party that long. If you could keep the party going for days and continue the wine and continue the food for 7 days, that was a huge status symbol. And that's why, you hear the story of Jesus turning the water into wine,
right.
was because the party was still going 7 days later and they're still drinking. And if you read through the Bible, Jesus was always partying. He was always at get-togethers and always with people. It's not the alcohol that's the sin. It's the way we use it. It's not
right.
the drugs that are a sin. It's the way we use them. It's your intention that's behind it. Actually, I even have the Bible open over here to this page. I'd love to read this scripture here. Matthew 15:10, Jesus called the crowd to him and said, "Listen and understand. What goes into someone's mouth does not defile them, but what comes out of their mouth is what defiles them." I love that line, man, because I've had people tell me that kind of stuff, Oh, Amanda's got a phone call. That's okay, dear. Take your phone call. We're actually going to get out of here in a minute, but we'll let her come back so she can say goodbye too. But Nick, you got any thoughts on you over there?
No, just really glad we were able to do this. And honestly, well, actually, here's a thought. People need to be more vocal about what we do. As I promise you, I don't care how you work your recovery. If it's different, there's someone out there who's doing it pretty close to the same as you, and they may be feeling kind of alone. I felt that way for a long time, and then I found Maddie on the Point of Change and some other people in the groups, and it's like, hey, it ain't just me. This is okay, and felt comfortable. So however you're doing it, get it out there. Someone else may want it too.
Amen. Amen, brother. It doesn't work for everybody, but the thing is, like, people are dying every single day from illicit drugs, addiction, overdoses, death by gang violence, death by drug-related crime, stuff like that. every single day. And I think we need as many avenues to recovery as we can find. 100% sobriety isn't right for everybody either. There are plenty of people who go to meetings daily, maintain 100% sobriety, and then one day slip up and go back out and use heroin or go back out and use meth or end up dead. So using cannabis in your recovery doesn't mean that you failed, and it doesn't guarantee that you're gonna fail.
And the only, well, this may be kind of bumper sticker, but only time you fail is when you stop trying. But I mean, we've all fallen down. I've relapsed. I've sat outside those doors to the church, looking at them, not wanting to walk through, not wanting to face that judgment. And yeah, it sucks. But all it took was one guy, and I'm like, dude, I don't know what to do. He's like, well, first you go sit the fuck down. I'm like, okay. And then the meeting went on. Any relapses? Yeah. And got my white tag again. And you know what happened? Nothing. The meeting happened. That's it. And so, yeah, talk about what's going on. Other people get it. We've all been there. I mean, people who use marijuana in recovery, we're all the same. It's just like standing out in front of that door after a relapse. You may not want to talk about it because it's that uncomfortable subject right now until we change it.
Amen, brother. Amen. Open up those avenues to talk, and we are only as sick as our secrets. And there's nothing that needs to be all sneaky about cannabis use. And as long as it's, if you're using and you have real reasons, like valid reasons for why you're using, not excuses, but valid reasons for why you're using cannabis, don't hide it, man. Don't stay in the shadows. Like, I understand keeping it on the down low. Like you said, in your meeting, you don't want to share about it at the meetings and stuff. It can be triggering for other people. And we want to respect their recovery. We don't want to, we don't want to do what we get served so often and disrespect their recovery, but no matter what you're advocating for in recovery, there's going to be people that are against it and it doesn't help them. And there's going to be people that are like, wow, that's amazing. And I'm all for it. Even Jesus, like myself, Jesus was awesome to come into my life and help me and save me and my church and everything else. But there's plenty of people out there where I would be like, hey, man, Jesus can save you. Jesus can do this. And they would say, and go back out and do more drugs, and find Jesus to be very triggering. They'd find the church to be very triggering. It wouldn't help them in the way that it's helped me, because each person's journey is different. And like Amanda said, take your own inventory. You're not here to take other people's inventory. You're here to take your own and, take what you benefit from this group. If that doesn't help you, then I'm sorry, and this is what helps me. And this is what works for me,
As long as you're clean, that's all that matters. I'm clean and sober today. And that's what matters. I don't care how I got here. And the path always felt so important, but it's not. It's that destination of recovery. And I'm there. I'm in recovery. How I got here, that past, yesterday is gone. It doesn't matter that I'm coming up on 20 months because, hell, this afternoon something could happen. So it's today. It's not yesterday. It's not a year ago. It's not tomorrow. I can't do anything about yesterday. Tomorrow's not here yet. Today's the only thing I have in front of me, and I'm clean today, so that's what matters.
Amen, brother. Amen. And I define clean as, hey, God put that plant here. God put everything that's in your body came from God. You yourself came from God. The food you ate came from God. And in fact, we could say that the food we eat is probably less natural than the cannabis we smoke, So I think the most freaking natural thing I put in my body is cannabis.
Yeah.
All right, man. Well, I guess I'm going to let you go. It looks like Amanda got tied up in a phone call, so that's all right. But we thank you, Amanda, for coming on today and sharing with us. I love you so much. You did such an awesome job, and I appreciate your open honesty. And thank you to Shane for being here. Shane, you're the man, and I really appreciate you coming on here today. And Nick, you're the man, and I'm so happy that we met, dude, and I'm so happy you found the point of change and that we were able to connect in person at Never Give Up. The huge shout out to Matt Traver and the guys at Never Give Up, and Matt for connecting us, because like I love having this, because I've met so many people that are 100% sober and clean and stuff like that, and they meet people like yourself that are using cannabis in their recovery, and they go, hey, you know, I don't do that and I can't really help you, but I know a guy that can. And they send them my way. They send them to the Point of Change to talk to me. I appreciate that so much, man. It's awesome that we have that. They're not just like, oh, you smoke weed, not dealing with you. You know, they're like, hey, you know, I can't really do that, but this guy does, and he's all about it. So head over there, you know, and I appreciate that, because when I have people that are like, hey man, I'm in an A and I'm having trouble with my fourth step or whatever, I need some help. I'm like, hey, I don't do recovery that way, but I got some friends that do. I can introduce you to them, you know, and I send them their way. So finding the right fit for everybody is so important in recovery. Finding a recovery that works for you, just like finding a sponsor that you relate to, you know, finding a recovery that works for you is awesome. And I'm so happy to be here and be spreading this message. So thanks for coming on, Nick. Hope you have an awesome 420, brother.
Thanks for having me, and happy holiday.
Right on, man. We'll catch you next time.
All right, catch you later, bro.
There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Happy 420, everybody. 420, the holiday for stoners, right here. You know, I was really happy that this live went together so well, because before last night, I got thrown in Facebook jail for a little while. If you didn't hear that at the beginning of this video, last night I made a post that was already on Facebook. I copied and pasted it and posted it as an old post of mine. Copied and pasted it and posted it again last night at 10 o'clock, and I got thrown in Facebook jail. And I was like, no, it was 24-hour hold in Facebook jail. And I'm like, tomorrow's 420. I got to do this video. What the heck? But I disputed the charges, and it gave me the option to dispute the claim. So I disputed the claim, and they overturned the charge and let me out of Facebook jail last night, guys. Here I am running around at work screaming that I was going to go to Zuckerberg's house and beat him up. and then I go and look at my phone, and they actually gave me a notification that says, we're sorry that we got this wrong. Thank you for taking the time to dispute this claim. I was like, I'm so sorry, Mark. I was saying so many mean things about you. Like, I appreciate you for reconsidering, man. So thank you guys so much for being here and enjoying this video. And I hope that somebody out there sees this video, and I hope you realize you're not alone. I hope you realize that you're not working recovery wrong. I hope you realize that you're on the right track. I hope you realize that it is progress, not perfection. I hope you realize that everybody's recovery looks different. I hope you realize that no matter which way you work recovery, someone's going to have something bad to say about it. If you're smoking weed, they're definitely going to have something bad to say about it. If you're using Suboxone, they're going to have something bad to say about it. You're going to use methadone, they're going to have something bad to say about it. Smoking cigarettes and drinking coffee, going to have something bad to say about it. Going to NA, you're going to find people who tell you it's a cult and you're brainwashed. Like, no matter what your path of recovery, there's going to be some naysayers. But we got to just put them out of our minds, put them to the side. They're not walking in your shoes. You know, if they walked a mile in your shoes, they might be singing a different tune. So keep doing what you're doing. Whatever's working for you, keep doing it, guys. Thank you guys so much for joining me this morning. 420 celebration. We have a 20% off everything in my shop right now to celebrate 420 until the 23rd. So if you're not quite at payday yet and you still want to get some stuff, shop.spreadshirt.com/thepointofchange. That's the link. Go over there and get yourself geared up with some Point of Change merchandise, some Pickle Butt Recovery merchandise. The I Love Jesus and Weed line is up and for sale right there. So head over there to shop.spreadshirt.com/thepointofchange. Get yourself geared up for 20% off. Celebrate 420 with some awesome stuff. All right. I love you guys. Thank you guys so much for joining me this morning. I hope you have a beautiful 420. Get out there and have a great day. I will see you tomorrow. Until then, stay happy, stay healthy, and stay clean.